Hey everyone, it's Ivan, kitbadge.com, out here for another gear review, and today, talking lights, this one right here, which is the Holosun PID. The PID, positive identification, it's a weapon light for a pistol, made to clamp onto 1913 rail, and I'll show you a close-up in a minute. Basically, you have a paddle on either side for activation, and the way that works, you can either press and just hold it for momentary, or if you just click it, go ahead and stay on, and you can activate it from either side as well. Other things, well, one output, I want to say 1,000 lumens and 23,000 candela, something along those lines. I'll give you kind of a look at it at night, see how it does in a minute too. Burn time, I want to say close to 1,000 hours, close to 60 minutes, close to an hour, and some kind of cool stuff with the battery too, I'll show you. As far as activation goes, pretty good sized paddle right here on both sides. You can activate it. And something that's kind of nice down here on the bottom, there's these contacts. So you can basically put a magnetic charger, USB-C charger, and it'll recharge the internal battery. Down here to access it, showing you kind of open closed, and you essentially unscrew the light cap, and then it'll give you access to the battery. And inside here, we actually have a rechargeable 18350. So this little guy right here, and that powers it. And then, yeah, like I said though, the nice thing is you can actually charge it with that magnetic charger, USB-C, and then you don't actually have to remove the battery. Something worth mentioning, this is the just regular PID. They also have a high candela version. Never had any experience with it. I've only used this one right here. I say that because right here, I'm gonna go ahead and show you kind of a comparison between this, also the Surefire X300 Ultra, kind of a gold standard, and then the new Surefire X300 Turbo. But yeah, give you a rundown on these lights. Right here is the X300 Ultra, kind of a gold standard. And then right here is the X300 Turbo. And right here, the PID from Holosun. Right here, I'm back at 25 yards, and here we are with the X300 Ultra. And right here, the Surefire X300 Turbo. And right here is the PID from Holosun. Right here, back at 50 yards. This right here is the Surefire X300 Ultra. And right here is the X300 Turbo. And this right here is the Holosun PID. And fortunately, my buddy Weston was out there, and he basically kind of explained from being on the other end of these lights, just on frames, no slides, no ammo, kind of what his experience was. And yeah, here's his takeaway.
Sounds good. Yeah, so of the three more powerful lights, the X300 Ultra, definitely overwhelming light output. Pretty muted tone though, it's a pretty soft color. The Turbo, in comparison, was very obviously more violent in its tone. It was a more brighter, bluer tone, and it was even more so overwhelming. The Holosun was kind of a surprise for me. It had the same kind of color palette as the Turbo, it just wasn't quite as focused on my eyeballs like the turbo was. I would say the turbo by far was the most punishing.
Which now brings me to how I've actually used this light. I've shot this light pretty much exclusively on this pistol, and I've shot it quite a bit. One, I've actually carried this pistol quite a bit just as an everyday carry setup to include with this light. Haven't used it really in that capacity, fortunately, but spent much time with it on the range, largely just out shooting at night, usually doing shoot house runs and stuff like that. And I find it to be pretty intuitive as far as activation, works pretty well. The light works, it definitely has a decent throw and enough flood to where it's not a laser beam that I'm trying to move around to actually look into those dark places. The biggest thing I think honestly for me that I've ran into is the design of this light. So it actually tapers down. Why does that matter at all? Well, here's the thing. If you have a light and you can't get a holster for it, then it completely just turns into a nightstand gun. That's it, because you can't carry it. And so to be able to get a holster to fit it is a challenge on the holster maker side, because pretty much every other light you'll have a bezel up where the actual emitter is, and it's smaller than the rest of the light. What that translates into is essentially creating places on the gun or the light where the holster can grab onto and create retention. If you're talking about just like a level 1 holster. If you have some sort of level 2, I don't know if anyone even makes it for this light because not incredibly well supported. And there's actually a lot of difficulty in making just a level 1 retention because the biggest part is up front. So you essentially have to have a bucket, but that's the biggest part. And so what that translates into also, reholstering is a nightmare. Like totally doable, it works, but you're trying to get this in. And so you have to have it big enough to fit the light, but you also want to be able to have it retain it. Not a lot to retain on there because of the geometry of it. And though on top of that, usually you have some sort of in the waistband. And so you have pressure on the holster between your body and your belt. And so now it's even smaller than it would otherwise be. And you're trying to basically get it started and rock this thing in there. Why do I bring all this up? Because again, if you deviate from a known footprint like TLR1, X300, something like that, you can run into issues, especially if you don't really take the geometry of the light into consideration when you make it. So then you have a light that no one supports for a holster, so people aren't going to use it, or yeah, there's just limited options when it comes to holsters. Fortunately, my buddy over at Carey Concealment, he actually figured out how to make it work. I mentioned the one thing I ran into, which you can't really get away from as far as reholstering. Otherwise, you would just have like this massive like soup can top to alleviate that, which doesn't really lend itself to concealed carry. As far as a pistol light goes, it's pretty good. I know I like harped on the whole holster thing because honestly, it's real. People do make them. There'll be links to all this stuff down below to include Carey Concealment. Things I actually really like about this is the USB-C rechargeable, that magnetic charger. Pretty intuitive as far as if you just pick this up and you haven't used it before, as far as the switching and stuff like that goes. Price-wise, pretty affordable, about $100. There'll be a link down below. You can check them out over on Amazon. And yeah, if you're looking for a pistol light and it is inside your budget, I would encourage you to check it out. Before you do that though, I would make sure that you can find, if you plan on carrying this, look for, because again, kind of an interesting combo too between this light and the CZ P10-C. But yeah, make sure you can find a holster that will work with the light as well as your respective carry gun if you intend to carry it. And yeah, as always, thanks for joining us at kitbachelor.com. Look forward to seeing you next time.
Look all around you, there's a war that's going on. A struggle against